Right, hi. I'm here in my games room, and today I'm going to be doing an in-depth review, hints and tips on the RaceCube, the valve index, my PC and iRacing. I'll take you through all of the settings and all of the setups that I've done, tweaking this to get it as best as I can. So in May 2018 I got the version 1 of the RaceCube and used that for 8 months. Brilliant starter, getting used to it, really good. And in Jan 2019 I upgraded to a version 2 and I've been using that for the last 13 months. So the main difference between version 1 and version 2 was an add-on that was put on by FaseTech. You can just see it underneath here. It's a bar that holds together the actuators a lot better, and overall it's brought a lot more feedback to the actual rig itself. So inside the rig there's 4 motors, 2 here at the back. This is the rotation one, and then you've got 2 at the front. Now, okay, let's get to the movement of this thing. So what I've quickly found out was that with the settings on high, with the rotation plate at the bottom, I found that in VR I took the headset off and the whole thing had moved across the floor. So basically what I've done is I've bolted it down to the floor, here, around here, and then there's another 2 at the front. So that's kept everything stable. Okay, let's move on to the index itself. So this was a big improvement. I started off with the Vive, moved to the Vive Pro, and more recently I've got the index. In between I did try out the Pimax 8K, couldn't get on with it. It didn't support motion compensation, which I need for my rig, so that got sold off, and thankfully the index came out, and it's a brilliant VR headset. I love it. Now, a little mod that I've done on the valve index is I found that the lenses were touching my face. So what I've done is I've added a little magnet mod. So just here I've applied some magnets, okay, and that just brings the headset a little bit more away from your face, and then you can dial in the lenses for a better field of view. Okay, so that's worked really well. The rest of the rig itself, as far as the rotation is concerned, the way that I dealt with that was I built a alley bar that I've taken up, bolted to the rig all the way up. It's got a little connector in here which you can sort of twist and then alter to whatever angle that you need. And then I've taken all my cables through here, up through the ceiling, and then back down to my PC. Never had any problems with this. The whole thing rotates around about 180 degrees. So, like I say, I've been using it for 18 months. Never had an issue with it at all. Okay, let's move on to the wind sim. This is really cool. Excuse me. So I've fitted mine underneath the DD2, okay, just in place, and then put this ducting on, so I get a nice blow through the face, and that works really well as well. The motion compensation is the main thing that you have to have. So Mattersman created this app that you can load into Steam VR. It takes a little bit of setting up, but once you've got it set up, it works really well. The main thing for the motion compensation is you have to apply a tracker or a controller, and then you have to set the software to the tracker or the controller to activate the motion compensation. That basically keeps you planted in the seat whilst you're driving and the motion rig is moving around. So I played around with this quite a lot, and I found eventually that the best way of doing this for me was to put it on the back of the seat. Okay, so what I've done is underneath the lever, you can't see, but I've got some foam that sits underneath here. Okay, and then I've used a bungee cord, all right, and you can see that here. Now I've really pulled this tight, I mean as tight as I can get it, to the point where the tracker is just embedded into the material, as you can see there. Okay, quite important. I tried other things that just didn't work. I tried it here, but the vibration was just causing, because it's a hard surface, so the vibration of the rig was just causing the VR view to jump around like crazy. Now, you couldn't race like that. I tried one of these, a little gimbal type of thing you get on a drone. Okay, I thought that these little rubber things here would have helped the situation, but no good. The rest of the rig for the wiring, so I mentioned before that I've taken it up through the ceiling and stuff. Underneath the rig at the front here, I've put my power, there's an adapter under there. I think it's got three plugs, and then I've got my DD2, the actual RaceCube itself. That's pretty much it that's powered off of here. Now the connections that I've used after messing around with loads of different setups for connections for the actual VR, I've recently moved over to, from the valve index coming into the back of my graphics card, I've used one of these. So this is a USB, standard USB to USB-C, and I'm taking that directly into my 2080 Ti, because there's a small port there for it. I was having some issues before with connections, and since I've changed over to that method, which has been around about 3 weeks, it's been absolutely flawless. I've had no connection problems whatsoever. Another thing that I've done recently as well, I was getting quite a lot of juddering in VR, or flickering. Everybody's complaining about this, and I started experiencing it a lot with the motion compensation. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. I was playing around with a lot of different things, base stations and positions of them, and eventually, I don't know if it got moved or something, because I never used to get this with the Vive Pro, but this base station, which is up here on the ceiling, it had an angle before. It was coming more here. Anyway, I twisted it down so it's coming directly looking down at my Vive tracker, and it fixed it straight away. My view in VR now while I'm racing is pretty much flawless. I don't have any problems whatsoever with my view. So yeah, that was good. So I'm using the 2.0 base stations. Okay, I have 4 of them, but at the moment I'm just using 3, which is sufficient. With the valve index, I also tried this connector. I can't remember what you call that one. With the USB-C, I just switched back to HDMI. I didn't like that, and then that got replaced, as I mentioned before, with this for the USB for the valve index, also freeing up another port on the PC. So maybe not so much voltage running through all the USBs have helped the whole situation, but yeah, all good. Sound, let's move on to sound. So for my sound, I'm using a mass monitor audio system. Brilliant system, brilliant sound. This is the bass bin down here. I've got as you can see, the centre, two fronts, and then up above my head here on the ceiling are my two rear speakers, and that's just running through a AV Denon amp. It's down there, great bit of sound. The PC, okay, I've got some details here of the PC. So it's a custom built PC. It's got a Asus ROG Strix X299E gaming motherboard. It's got the Intel i9-7900X CPU, 10 cores, 3.3 to 4.3 gigahertz. I've just got a 500 gig Samsung solid state drive. The power is a Corsair RM850, 80 plus gold, 850 watt PCU. It's a mouthful. It's got some thermal paste, and my graphics card is an EVGA GeForce RTX 2080 Ti. It's the ultra gaming one. Yeah, big step up from the 1080 Ti to the 2080 Ti, well worth the money. It's got a 32 gig DDR4 300Hz memory with 4 times 8 gigabyte sticks, and a Creative Sound Blaster ZX sound card. Okay, one thing I've recently done with the PC is I've done a little bit of overclocking. I'm no expert on this at all, but I've given it a go. By the way, I control my PC with this little thing here. It's a little air mouse. I find that really handy. I don't do too much. Okay, so I'm going to take you through the rig in a little bit more detail. Okay, so I've got a carbon fibre bucket seat from a local company. Really comfortable. Okay, we've got the shifter. I don't hardly use my shifter anymore. I use the paddles now. I've got the handbrake, same again. Don't really use it a lot, but it's handy for it to be there. I've got the HE pedals, great set of pedals. They work really well. And the DD2. My settings on the DD2, no expert. I think my torque setting is, I think it's 8, and the strength is 4.5. I used to have it at, I think it was 6 and 10, and I've dialed it back a little bit. I found that's improved my times. I think I just had it set too strong. So the rest of the rig, these are my keys here. Just on a little pull cord for setting up my start stop for the DD2 when it gets out of control. And I've also got a couple of USBs down here which are built on the sim rig, and one of them I've got cabled up to come all the way round to power my Vive tracker. Okay, so it never runs out, and as you can see, quite handily with the Vive controller, that just sits on there when I'm racing, never falls off. And this is my air mouse again. So that's pretty much the rig itself. So you'll start to see this in action once I start doing a few videos. I'll be back soon. Okay, next we're going to get the index up and running, and I'll show you the motion compensation and how to set it. So you'll notice I've got the headset running, I've got one controller, I've got my Vive tracker, which get a bit low. So this is looking in the VR view. Okay, here's my controller, and down here is settings for the OpenVR emulator. So we go to there, and then on the drop down list for the devices, you'll notice in here you've got the HMD tracker and controller. So I'm using the tracker on the back of my seat, so I'm going to set that there. And then the device mode, I'm going to set to motion compensation. Okay, and then I'm going to, before I apply it, I'll just show you something here which I found the best setting for the motion compensation is to set 0. Okay, that's what I found works the best, and once you've done that, you can apply. And that is basically how you set up the motion compensation before you get into a race or any practice. You have to obviously install the Open emulator. You can download that, put in a search on Google for Mattisman, Open VR input emulator, and you'll find it there. I think it's version 1.3 that is the latest version. So that's pretty much that. I don't use Home. That's basically my VR view. Okay.
If you slow, can you move off the track?
Dropping a lot of fluid. We have to fix it. That's it, go!